am Orlando Jones, and I just want you to know that the Moana Nui Podcast will be starting soon. Stay tuned, yo.
I'm Veronica Taylor, and from myself and Ash Ketchum, I just want to say, Moana Nui, I choose you!
Okay, we have Miss Anne Yatco, who has been a voice actress in the wonderful show, The Miraculous Ladybug. Please come on and line up with your questions.
Good morning.
Good morning.
JB of JB versus the World.
Hi.
Hi. How did you fall into getting into JJK? Like, were you a fan beforehand? Did you just audition? Like, what was that story like from you getting from point A to point B with it?
Oh, sure. I had never heard of Jujutsu Kaisen before I received my audition. I had worked at the studio that localized it before, and so I was just on their mailing list for auditions that they thought I might be good for, and this one came my way, and I was like, okay, for an anime, okay, this girl looks kind of cool. And then I, did my little homework, read the wiki, some of it, got a feel for like who is this character. And then luckily the first 3 episodes of the sub were already out on Crunchyroll when those auditions went out, or at least came out to me. And so I watched the first 3 episodes, which is great since she shows up at the end of 2, and her first big episode is 3. And I was like, oh, yeah, she's cool. Oh, I like her. Oh no, I'm never gonna get this because I want it too much. And then I was wrong and I got it.
Now that you've done that, have you read and caught up?
I have since read and caught up, and I'm fully in. And next season's gonna be crazy, and I both am looking forward to it and dreading it with all of my heart.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hello, Robert from Blurtography.
Hi, Robert.
Hello. So, you have a degree in biomedical engineering.
Yes.
What is it like being a forensic scientist, and how did you transition into voice acting?
Okay. So, I got my degree in biomedical engineering, but then I went off to grad school for acting, so I have an MFA in acting. And then after that, I worked a couple of jobs and then realized it was going to be a little tougher for me to find a day job. The usual actor day jobs were hard for me to find because I didn't have restaurant experience, I didn't have retail experience, and I couldn't make like a full-time income doing tutoring. That was something I was doing while I was in school, was tutoring. And so instead I was like, okay, well, we'll use my other degree to get, to pay my rent. And I found this job as a forensic scientist. And that was essentially accident reconstruction. So let's say you were at a one of those big box stores, your Target, your Walmart, whatever, and let's say you slipped and fell. There was a puddle and it wasn't marked, and you slipped and fell, and maybe you hurt your knee and now you have to have knee surgery. You might choose to sue the big box store, and at that point, either your lawyer or their lawyer might have hired my former boss to be what's called an expert witness. And I was his assistant, so I did, all the research and the writing of reports and all that stuff, where we're basically taking a look at what happened, trying to do any math or science that could help us prove, disprove, or help, more importantly, persuade a jury that either you were responsible for your own fault or they were responsible for you. Does that make sense? Yes. So I did a lot of premises liability, but I also did car accidents, a lot of interesting things. It was a really cool job, but not as cool as being an actor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How you doing?
Hi.
I'm Q.
Hi.
So I have a question for my daughter, actually. She asked, what project do you think changed your career?
Oh, I think it's Jujutsu Kaisen. Prior to Jujutsu Kaisen, I had been working, I think, in voiceover since about 2011. Mm-hmm. That was I think the first jobs that I booked. But I was doing voiceover and other acting work concurrently with that day job I was talking about. And so you can imagine if you have a 40-hour-a-week career, acting on the side is very much on the side. And so I just found ways to do it when I could, and I was slowly building up my voiceover resume. And Jujutsu Kaisen was the first high-profile role I'd ever had. And it put me in, I guess, the public eye in a way that I had never been before. So I had to learn very quickly how to navigate that.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, JB again.
Hi.
All right, so your love of video games. What got you started off in that, and what's your favorite games to play right now?
Okay. My love of video games goes all the way back to, Mario Brothers, Legend of Zelda, Tetris. I love Tetris. I love a puzzle game. But I grew up on the original Nintendo. And when I was a kid, my brother and I would play, and at some point, it kind of transitioned where I was like, oh, he was the one who played video games, and then I just watched. So I'd watch him play through all the Final Fantasy games, all that stuff. And it wasn't until I was, out of college when I was like, no, I can be the one to play the video games. Also, I have no one else to play the video games for me to watch, so I better do it myself. But, these days I've been playing, obviously, Genshin Impact.
Of course.
I stream it on Twitch. I just bought Tears of the Kingdom, and it has sat in my Switch waiting for me to play it for this whole 2 weeks or whatever.
Oh my God, you haven't touched it yet?
I haven't touched it.
Oh, come
But
on.
I'm going to the Philippines on Tuesday, so don't you worry. I will touch it. Wait, no, that's out of context. No. Oh, don't clip that.
Hello again.
Hi.
So yeah, like you said, you have your master's in acting. How do you find time to do voice acting and sketch comedy and Twitch and travel?
The answer is I don't. Things have fallen to the wayside. My schedule has morphed over time, right? At one point, when around the time I was quitting that day job, when I quit my day job, it was at a time where I was making a gamble on my acting career, and at that point I was deep into improv and sketch comedy. I was on a house team in LA for improv and for sketch, so I was doing comedy for 3-4 nights a week. You know what I mean? That's a lot of commitment. Transition that to now, since the pandemic and since my voiceover career has taken off and I've started coming to conventions, I literally don't have time to be able to commit to those activities, which is sad because I miss doing that. I miss doing that so much. But what I take heart. I take heart in knowing that all those skills that I learned from my comedy days, if you will, not that they're gone, but from my comedy training, is that I can apply that to all of my acting. That has only made me a better actor in the years since I started taking all those classes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chris.
Hi.
In addition to being a volunteer here, I used to also be a personal injury lawyer.
Oh, okay, so you know.
Well, yeah, so you piqued my interest with saying that you were an accident reconstructionist and expert witness, but I was also looking at your IMDb, and you were in a show called Juvenile Justice.
Yeah, it was a K-drama.
K-drama, yeah, and your character's name was Sue Me.
Yes.
So I'm loving everything so far. But did your experience as an expert witness inform that role at all?
No, she was the receptionist at the... That was awesome. I forgot that her name was Sumi. Hi again.
Before I ask, are you an anime fan first?
Yeah.
All right. What's your big three?
I feel like the answer to that kind of changes over time. But today, let's say Sailor Moon, because you never forget your first. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Yes.
And not including Jujutsu Kaisen. My third favorite one, I think, is Keep Your Hands Off Eizouken.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm kind of mad he said that because I was thinking of something very similar. What's your favorite arc in anime?
Sorry?
Your favorite arc?
My favorite arc. Ooh, okay, that gets very specific. Ooh. Huh. Man. That's so hard. Well, that's a good question. Dang it. Okay, last question. I didn't include Jujutsu Kaisen this time. I want to include Jujutsu Kaisen, and it's that second arc in JJK season 1. But they're fighting the Kyoto school, but then all the curses come through and like wreck it up, and then they finish the arc with a baseball game. Yes. A filler that is literally canon. I love that.
Hello.
Hi.
So I know you do Sabine and Miraculous, and I cosplay Marinette.
Yes.
What is your favorite Sabine episode? Because I really enjoyed the mom and daughter day that they kind of sort of had.
Yeah. Actually, Chilin is my favorite Sabine episode that I've gotten to do. I jumped into Miraculous Ladybug super late. I was cast in the mid-4th season, because the original actress, Felice Sampler, passed away suddenly, and they were forced, they needed to recast the role to have someone fill in her shoes, and I was selected. And it's something that I take great pride in. I hope I'm doing her justice, but thank you. Literally, I think the second episode that I got to record was Chilin, and what a gift to be able to do an episode that really delves into Sabine and who she is and what makes her tick. That's cool. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I really love the whole mother-daughter aspect. She understands her daughter's kind of flaky, but
she does, yeah.
She still just supports her.
She is an uber mom, and I hope to be half as good a mom as she is someday when I have kids.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm. You will be a super mom. Don't worry about it.
Oh,
I feel like I gotta do like this, right?
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily know if anybody has asked this question. I hope nobody has. But what was your experience with Jujutsu Kaisen? Because I know we got a chance to talk to all the other characters, and I would just love to know what your experience was for you.
Oh, just generally, throughout recording the season and all that stuff.
Yeah, recorded season 1, because you guys have already done 2, right? So
no.
So
no.
I don't know whether everybody says 1 and 2, but what was your experience for season 1?
Oh yeah, so
for you,
we recorded all of season 1 remotely. Did I ever go in? I don't think I ever went into the studio for Jujutsu Kaisen season 1. So everything was done from my closet, my little padded closet at my place, and I was recording remotely with the engineer, and then the director was in a third location. But it was so cool to work. It was the first time I'd worked on a show that was simuldubbed. This was like a little bit spaced out further than Crunchyroll's or Funimation's simuldub schedule tends to be, but it was basically following that model, right, where the sub came out and then a few weeks later the dub came out. Yeah, all the shows I'd worked on prior to that were shows for, say, Netflix, and those you tend to, it's changing now, but back then, they all were you just recorded them in a batch. They had all the episodes done, and then you recorded the dub in a batch, and then it went off to Netflix for QA, all that stuff, and then a couple months after that, all of them dropped. So that's the model I was used to working on. So getting to work on the show and being able to record it kind of in sync with the show coming out, being able to see the episode and then a week or two later record it and then see it come out a couple weeks after that was so cool. Because I really felt like I was able to grow with the show in a more natural way than when you kind of record it in a giant chunk. Yeah. Yeah. I loved it.
You need major life realignment. Okay. Starting with Baby Super Freak here. That is freaky.
Yes, you are a tiny god.
This is Miss Adassa from the movie Encanto. As you can see how she is dressed in this interview. And we will start the questions now.
Good morning, JB versus the world. What got you started in music?
I got started in music from my parents. So we used to sing a lot in church. And that's when I felt like, wow, I think music is something that I want to do. And so my first album ever was with my mom as a Christian album. And then after that, I was signed to my first record deal when I was 16. And I traveled the world after being signed with Universal. I worked with Pitbull, with Snoop, with Flo Rida, with Daddy Yankee, Luis Fonsi, Ciara, Missy Elliott. Flo Rida. It was just an amazing career.
Now, what was it like being able to work with those people, especially like a Snoop or a Lil Jon or Ciara?
It was wonderful, especially Ciara. She's such an endearing person. We were in Japan together on tour as well, and she was just like, oh my gosh, nothing fits. And I was like, everything fits me here. Yeah, she was so wonderful, great performer. Pitbull as well. He's such a down-to-earth person, so focused on what he's doing and making sure his family's taken care of, as well as giving people a great show. So it was a great experience.
Now, you've had a charted song. What was that like for you? Just stepping into the booth, doing what you love, and then just seeing the fruits of your labor just come to fruition like that?
It's been wonderful. I mean, even as a solo artist, having chart-topping songs, and then now with this incredible Familia Madrigal, we broke 26 years of records for Disney. The song was #1 on Billboard charts for multiple weeks. It won Grammys. We won the Oscar, Golden Globes. So it was... it's beautiful to be able to not just do it once, but have that serendipitous moment where it happens twice. So it's a humbling experience to be able to be a part of a family that will forever live in the lives and in the hearts of so many people. And Disney made that happen.
Now, speaking of House Mouse, what was that like? Because I read somewhere that you were retired from music before that happened. And then next thing you know, boom. So what was that journey?
Oh my goodness, it was amazing. I wanted to be part of that world since I was a kid. And when the movie came out, I was 9 years old, and I knew it. I was like, The Little Mermaid, that's me. I want to be in that world, and my life took me elsewhere. So I just thought, oh, you know what, the dream is over. I had a great, amazing career, and I was home with my kids baking bread. I have 7 children, and so I was like, okay, that was it. That was a wonderful moment in my life. And then Disney sent me an email through my YouTube channel. That's how important it is to always put things out, because you never know who's listening. And they asked me if I would like to audition, and I said yes. And that's how it came to be. And we unfortunately didn't have the advantages of being in Disney's House of Mouse to record it together because of COVID restrictions. So we were all over the world. But you wouldn't know it. I mean, the way that they put this magical movie together, it just sounds like we were together every single step of the way.
Now, reflecting on everything that movie did, all the records it broke, you guys cleaned up everywhere. For you on the other side of it now, because you don't, as an artist, you don't really just go into anything thinking, hey, we're going to do everything, we're going to do all the things. So what was that like, seeing it actually happen in real time?
It was like a miracle unfolding before your eyes. To be able to walk the carpet at the release of this film was the first time that we ever saw each other live, and that was the amazing moment to see Lin-Manuel, to meet Byron Howard, Jared Bush in person, and be on that carpet and be together for that family shot for the first time ever was insane. And the people, the way they received the film, but if it wasn't for everyone on TikTok, Instagram, just posting things dressed as the characters and cosplaying the characters and identifying with each one of our own roles and family situations like they did, I don't think it would have become what it has. I mean, Disney makes magic and it makes movies to last a lifetime, but the people made it become legendary.
Okay. someone has sent me some questions that couldn't be here. And I think you kind of answered one, so I'm going to go to the next one, which, and you said a little bit about it, because this is my favorite thing about you, is the fact you have 7 children, because that's amazing. I struggle with 3. How do you manage your career with your family life?
I love the life that I have, and I'm grateful for it. And then I make sure not to travel more than twice a month. So that's kind of a thing. And if we do travel more, they come with me, which is insane. I'm not going to say it's easy, but it gives them the opportunity to see the world. So yeah, there are times that you will see me traveling with all of the children, especially the 5 babies that I have with me at home. But they are all so understanding and loving and kind, but I do call them every day. I make sure to have our prayers together. It's very important for me to see how their day is going, and because that is my life too. So I have to be in both places at the same time. So serving others and being able to take the pictures and sign the autographs and be there for the people who love the work of Encanto and who want to, be a part of that. And at the same time, go home and deal with the dishes and take the kids to their parties and be there for the boo-boos. And I love being able to mix both, because it keeps me grounded and it keeps me joyful.
I would agree with that with mine as well.
Now, going back to your music, who would you say right now? No, let me backtrack. Disney. We're going to start Disney for a second. What's your favorite Disney movie growing up?
Favorite Disney movie growing up was The Little Mermaid. Jodie Benson did an amazing job, and now having the remake, oh my goodness, I think that it gives the new generation another character. I mean, it's Ariel, but at the same time it's another person to identify with that is playing this beautiful role, to be able to say she's like me in our day and age as well. So we get the best of both worlds.
Now, you haven't seen it yet. I mean, you've probably been here all week.
I have not. I've just seen the clips, and I wish I would have been there for the premiere, but unfortunately I was also on tour. So, yes, I think it's wonderful to see that moment where Jodie Benson and Halle Bailey, they met each other on the carpet. Oh my goodness, that was so lovely. It was the past and the present coming together in such a lovely, lovely way.
Now, stepping back to you.
It's up to you guys. I'm here for you. My time is your time.
All right, well, I'll let you guys get a couple in. I have to ask one more. I was told to ask. Sorry. Another reporter who couldn't make it up here fast enough wanted me to ask about your upcoming album.
Yes, so my upcoming album, my life has given such a turn, 25 years in the music industry, and I go back to my roots. I'm coming out with a Christian album entitled In Jesus We Are One, and the first single, On a Mission, is coming out in 30 days. So I'm so excited to share that with the world. Yes, and it's wonderful because I get to testify of my faith at the same time in music, so it's uniting both. And the first leg of the tour is taking me to Mexico, where I'll be with the Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square, and we're going to be in Mexico to a sold-out crowd of over 30,000. So it's going to be wonderful to be able to set that stage.
Biggest inspiration from your Christian music? Who are your favorite artists? Who are your favorite songs? I know you got a playlist.
Oh my goodness, do I? Biggest inspiration from growing up, it had to be Sandy Patty, and now Lauren Daigle. I think she's amazing. CeCe Winan also. Oh my goodness, I just love her so much.
So yeah, on doing research on your discography, I saw you work with a lot of music legends like Pitbull, so many others. So who are some of your favorites that you've worked with?
I would have to say Pitbull was definitely one of my favorites. He's so clear-minded, business-wise and as a person, like understanding that you need to prevent for your future, because it's so easy to be caught up on the glitz and glamour of everything. But like, he was an investor, some like day one, and I met him back when he was Mr. 305, and then he became Mr. Worldwide, and I toured with him on both sides of that spectrum. So I've seen his growth and how dedicated he was, and he made a lot of money and he lost a lot of money in investments, and he always was very steadfast in doing it. So I would have to say, yeah, he's one of my favorites. Don Omar was also cool traveling with him, and Sierra, loved touring with her in Japan. She was awesome.
And I don't know if you've already answered this. I apologize.
No, please go.
But so I know, we had a whole pandemic. What was the audition like for Encanto? Because wasn't that like your first role?
It was my first voiceover role in a major film. Other than that, I had done voiceovers for like Toyota, and I was the voice of McDonald's, and so this was different, because you're like, okay, picture this, and this is happening, go, and you're in like a booth, and then all of a sudden you're supposed to be in the middle of a mountain, in the middle of nowhere, It was really nice to work with the directors because they were so good at getting you to that place where it became real. But we were separate. Yes, I was in Nashville, Tennessee. That's where our studios were. But there was people in Colombia, New York, and LA. We were all recording from different places in the world. And when we finally premiered it together as the Familia Madrigal, we saw the work of art they made. I don't think there was a dry eye on that Zoom call. But the first time we ever set foot on a stage and got to reenact some of it was at the Hollywood Bowl. And you can watch that on Disney Plus. It was so wonderful because Stephanie Beatriz, she just embodies Mirabel, and so does Diane Guerrero. She just takes over Isabella, and Jessica Darrow, same thing with her, and Luisa, and Pepa and Felix. It was Carolina Gaitan and Mauro Castillo. So it was so wonderful to be able to have our voices, and we were on stage, and people can see we are like our characters. So we literally are, and that is our personalities. And trust me, we we enjoyed ourselves so much we didn't want it to end.
That sounds like fun. And was that the first time that you all actually came together?
It was the first time we performed, the first time we saw each other and met in person. We were like, you're a real person. Oh my goodness. It was at the premiere. That was the first time we saw each other. And it was lovely to have the blessing of Lin-Manuel Miranda when we did the Hollywood Bowl. And now I get to be a part of celebrating the 100 Years of Wonder at the Hollywood Bowl again. And this will be August 5th and 6th. So we're bringing a little bit of Encanto magic to the stage, as well as singing other classics for the crowds there. So 2 sold-out shows. So I'm excited to be there.
All right. Thank you so much. You look fantastic.
Thank you.
Who is this? I don't know. He's glorious. He's just like you, but way better. Way better. Thank you. No, it's not a compliment. I wouldn't touch him if I were you, buddy. You don't think I should touch him. You don't mind this, do you? Because I'm your buddy, too. I think he's gonna hit you. He punches so hard, but yet his hands are so soft. Be strong. Okay, bye.
All right, we're going to introduce our next guest. We have DomiNYcanKnyght Cosplay. And who has our first question? Please come on up to the mic.
Hey, how you doing? Mark from Blurredography.
Mark, good morning. How you doing, man?
I'm good. Good afternoon to you. My first question for you, since this is the last day of con, what was your cosplay lineup for the weekend?
Actually, I started off with an outline of what I thought it was going to be, and then I decided to become more ambitious than that, and ended actually adding 2 more costumes. So my lineup overall ended up being 3 on Friday, 3 yesterday, and today I decided, it's checkout day. And it's shopping day, but I had lined up this weekend Moon Knight, Batman, Nick Fury, Wolverine, Luke Cage mashup, and Thor.
Oh wow, that's a lot for 4 days.
Yeah, that's what I tell myself too. That's a lot for just any amount of days.
Okay, I guess I'll keep asking questions until somebody come up. So what got you into cosplay? And I know that's kind of more of a generic question, but let's go ahead and just get it out of the way.
For me, I've always been a lifelong geek, and I've always loved comic books. I've always loved animation, and it's, for a while when I was younger, I wanted to actually be a comic book artist. I'm an artist already by nature. I'm a sketch artist, and cosplay. Attending Dragon Con, what seems like forever ago. I caught the bug. People just looked like they were having an amazing time embodying characters that they loved, and I got to see that, and I thought, that's something I'd like to do, or that's something I would really enjoy, and I did. And after that, it was just, I started off with one simple cosplay. I did Hancock from the Will Smith movie, and once I did that first time around, it was, just from there, it was just trying to get to that next level, that next, thing, and it just became more than just a hobby. It became a passion.
Hello, Robert from Blurredography. What's one of the most what's one cosplay that you finish and you felt like the most proud of for having finished it?
Well, I've always been a Batman fan. But there was a point in time I really didn't want to do Batman. I just felt like it was beyond me. It wasn't anything that I was just like, I love the character. I don't know that I want to necessarily be the character. Then there was a point where I was like, what, I'm going to try it out. I'm going to see actually if, and I'm going to start building, getting, sourcing different areas of from other artists as well, like, cowl makers and stuff. And, started building this little by little, and then adding my own little flares and pieces to it. And then when it was completed, it was such a sense of accomplishment, because again, I love that character so much. It was great. And then it happened to correlate around the time that they introduced Tim Fox. So that was actually another big inspiration for me, was to go ahead and actually do a version of Batman, actually, and Batman that was a person of color as well, was a great segue to say, hey, this is actually one that I want to go ahead and do it. At the very least, interpret in that same fashion. I still do it, and I still do it as if I'm Bruce Wayne, but having that character introduced was definitely part of where that inspiration came from.
Right, hey brother, I just wanted to ask, man. Hey, so when it comes to cosplay, are there for you personally, is there an end goal, or do you just do it out of passion and hey man, I'm just gonna do this to the day I die, or do you have goals set behind this cosplay?
I do it for fun, and so when I started out, I did it mostly as a geek for fun. Over time, it's morphed into something that I've become very passionate about, but more than that, it's also become for me, a part of being part of the conversation and part of the, adding visibility and representation. That's always been, like, for me, it's not about follow count. It's not, the moment it becomes a job, it automatically loses its luster. For me, if I can go ahead and actually dress as a character and have other people from a younger generation or any generation look at me and say, hey, you know what, he's doing it, I can go ahead and do it too. Or for kids, if they see it and they say, hey, I see that character, I'm finally seeing a physical version and in real life version of this character of color, that's actually something that has more gain for me and more weight than anything else. I mean, yes, you always want your artistry to be accepted and appreciated, and sometimes people equate that to follow count. I don't necessarily. I just, for people that know me and know actually the person that I am, and when I attend cons, I refer to myself as the Ron Howard of cosplay. If you guys don't know who Ron Howard is, you probably know who. If you see his face, you know exactly who he is. He's the one guy that you're like, oh yeah, I remember him from that movie. You know who he is, but the name never gets you. That's what I am. I feel like a lot of people know who I am, and when you ask them about me, they have a very specific, hey, he's this person. He's always trying to be. He's always an advocate and a cheerleader, and always is encouraging. That's what I want. Anything else is secondary.
What's one of the most impactful memories that cosplaying has brought you?
Actually, I've had a lot of amazing memories. One of the things I segued into using cosplay was to volunteer. Here locally here in Atlanta, actually, with a group called the Cosplay Volunteers of Atlanta. And so I was able to use this fandom to reach out to parts of the community that maybe actually don't have a chance or aren't able to visit, like, for example, Disney, or visit any of the parks and stuff like that, and get to experience seeing a superhero in front of them. And so we work with a lot of nonprofits, we work with a lot of charities, we work with a lot of festivals. And so I've had a one particular experience with that organization where I worked with a hospice, and that was probably one of the most heartbreaking, traumatic experiences, but I would never change that for anything in the world. And it was a child that was being treated here, actually a child that came to the country to be treated here. He came from Africa, and he had asked actually for his favorite characters, Batman and Black Panther. And I was in Black Panther, and I went actually to go see this boy. And this is gonna stay with me for the rest of my life. One of the things he told me actually after he saw me, and he was excited, and he was just like, it's Black Panther, and I'm in my full everything, like helmet on and everything like that. Unfortunately, I couldn't interact because I didn't have my mic set up. He pulled me in, and actually he wanted me to come in close because I wanted to sort of at least try to interact with him as best I could. But one of his, let's say, dying wishes was, he was just like, can you take my family to Wakanda? Because his family, his mom and one of his siblings was here while he was getting treatment. The rest of his family was in Africa, and he just wanted to make sure that they were taken care of. And in his mind, he was talking to Black Panther, and that's one of the last interactions, that he had, because no more than I think a week later he passed. And that is, that's something that cosplay gave to me. That's something that volunteering gave to me. That will never ever leave my heart, and I am saddened and heartbroken for it, but I am grateful for that experience.
Thank you.
Okay, I kind of got to change up my question now because of their story, but let's go. Let's talk about cosplay photography for 1 second. As a cosplayer, what do you look for out of a cosplay photographer or a cosplay videographer, or someone who wants to work with you, or someone you want to work with? What do you look for out of that?
Yeah. Like for the most part, for me, it's building a relationship. I love the community, and I love also the artistry of photography, and I really want to make sure, first and foremost, that the photographer that I work with feels and knows how much I appreciate the work that they do. Because I think a lot of times people, or we, and I will say to some degree I'm guilty of it as well. It's, or early on I was guilty of it because, as I got more into cosplay and met more photographers, I understood what the meat and potatoes of it was. But the work that you guys have to put in as photographers, videographers after the fact, it's not actually, everybody assumes it's front end and you just click and you put it on a file. There's more than that. And so having that relationship and being able to understand and appreciate what's being done and working within working with a partnership, just saying, hey man, what do you want from me? How can I actually help, you achieve the vision that you want? And if it's a collaboration, hey, what's the vision that we're both trying to accomplish? How are we're going to get it? I think that's the most important thing for me. I really do like having, relationships with the photographers and videographers, especially if it's, outside of even cosplay. Just, who are you as a person kind of stuff, and like having that relationship. So, if when we do collaborate and work together, it's going to feel seamless. It's going to feel like it's just like, hey, this is, we're on all cylinders. Other than that, actually, just also being honest with each other, being honest and saying, "Hey, man, sometimes something looks awkward to you or feels awkward to you as a cosplayer. The photographer, have faith in the photographer and have, trust in what they're doing, and saying, hey, you know what? Trust me, it looks weird, it looks awkward, it feels awkward, but trust me, if you do this and you see the shot and you immediately like, yep, I see what you were going and what you were doing with it."
Hey, brother, let me ask you one more time about something else. I guess just about as being a man of color, like, how do you feel about, I guess, just in general? And forgive me if I'm not using the right term, but I think it's like race blending, like cosplaying as a character that's not of color. So, that's maybe traditionally like white or Japanese or something like that. Like, I guess, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm not going to try to take credit for this particular thing, which is a cosplayer, Bar Fox, years ago started a campaign. He still actually does, and he has if you get a chance to follow this particular Instagram and Facebook, Cosplay Your Way. Meeting him and actually working with him was has been so far one of the best experiences when it comes to being a cosplayer, because I have learned a lot of things about, not only actually, acceptance to some degree. And when I say acceptance, I mean acceptance of myself, saying, hey man, even if this character isn't necessarily actually of this specific race or is predominantly interpreted as a white character, the version that you're doing is just as valid. And is just as and your artwork and your artistry is just as valid. Nothing can change that, because you cannot change. You can change fabric colors, you can change actual helmets, you can change props. You cannot change actually the color of your skin. And if you love that character and you are passionate about that fandom, then you should have every right, just like anyone else, to go ahead and cosplay that character and say, hey, you know what? As long as you're not being disrespectful of the character, if they are of another ethnicity, or if you're not, doing things actually that can be taken as off color, I think actually that shouldn't be a barrier. Not to mention the fact that I will give props, I feel, in this generation for what has been going on in the mainstream, specific with comic book movies. There's the multiverse. Any way you slice it, you're still valid, because there's a multiverse of characters that you can go ahead and say, I'm this variant. And it should no longer be relegated to, which it was at one point, people would walk up to somebody who's dressed up, say for example, as Superman, and say, oh, you're the black Superman. No, I'm Superman. There is no caveat, unless my name is specifically stating, and granted, understanding where these characters and the origin they came from, as my character's name starts with black, there shouldn't be any I'm the black this. If I'm Black Lightning, cool, that's part of his name. I'm not the black Green Lantern, I'm Green Lantern.
Chris from Cosplay Alliance. As a seasoned cosplayer, you had hosted a panel earlier talking about old nerds, and how have you found that? Have you found it difficult as an older cosplayer, a seasoned cosplayer, to participate in these cons? And have you been able to get more people involved?
I feel like actually it is, I will say, I feel like I've been fortunate that so many people, I have, not had too many experiences thank God, that have been negative within regards to my age or race. I've actually been extremely fortunate. I've seen colleagues and friends that have gone through it, and I can't understand. I don't know if it's a case of, and I'm not trying to put this into the universe to try to, have people at me, but I have not had that experience, and maybe perhaps. I don't know if it's because I'm 6'4", and maybe people are like, hey, I don't want to go ahead and just start talking anything about this person. But thankfully, I will say I haven't had that. And so thankfully, when it comes to age, I have, recently, and when I say recently, I would say probably in the next 3 or 4 years, or last 3 or 4 years, been really embracing, being over 40 and being a cosplay and being actually somebody who pushes for that to be part of the what the general consciousness and normalizing that cosplay itself doesn't have to be relegated to you're 17 and you're into comic books or you're into anime. Cosplay is for any age. If you're passionate about it and you love it, no one should tell you how to be happy. That's not something anybody should have any say over for you. And if it makes you happy to cosplay, regardless of your age, I look at somebody like, for example, there's a cosplayer, Walt Oliver, and I, every time I see him do a cosplay, every single time, I'm just like, yeah. Keep doing it. Keep doing exactly that. We need more of that in the space so people can so it becomes normalized and it doesn't become something of a, hey, you can't cosplay because you're this age or you're this race or you're this sex or you identify this way. None of those things matter. Absolutely. Not to mention the fact, and I will say for the majority of the the characters that are being cosplayed as, they're all fictional characters. So at the end of the day, they're all fictional characters. Do it the best way that you want, the best way you want to interpret it.
All right. So in the beginning, you mentioned that cosplaying is a hobby for you, and you also mentioned that you like to collab with other photographers and videographers. My question for you is, how do you manage the business of being a cosplayer? You are a more higher up cosplayer. You are being featured at a con, and you've been featured at other cons. You have to worry about branding and content, social media posts, and things like that. How do you manage the business of Dominican Night Cosplay?
That's a funny question because I don't consider it a business for me. It really is a fandom. I am first and foremost a fan, and secondly, I would say I'm an advocate. And for me, if there's a business in that, that's the business. It's me making sure that if I'm speaking up about something, I speak up about something that I believe in, and it isn't with a motive or ulterior motive of being recognized for this thing. It's more of like, if I have a chance on a platform like coming to a convention and I can apply for a panel for Hispanic and Latino and Latinx cosplayers, or I can have a panel and apply for one for over 40 geeks and stuff like that, that's coming from a place of me being like, I want to be able to speak to this. I feel like actually I have a voice to speak to this. And if they accept the panel, great. Awesome. If they don't accept the panel, I mean, you keep trying, but that's if we want to bring it down to sort of like a business sort of thing, that would be it. There really isn't anything when it comes to the moment it becomes like I said earlier, the moment it becomes a job, I feel like that's when it's going to become something that I don't want to do anymore. Like, I feel my passion comes from the fact that I'm not outwardly trying to get anything out of this beyond the greater good, in the sense of like visibility, representation, like that part of it. Yes, 100%. So I can leave that for the next generation, that becomes normalized. But but for follow count, for endorsements, hey, if I apply to be or if I'm a guest at a convention and someone says, hey, you have a unique voice, we want to showcase you. Great, that's awesome, because I'm going to immediately use that platform to say, okay, well, let's talk about these things. These are things that are important to me. These are things actually that I think should be in the cultural discussion, and we need to go ahead and actually address them. So that way, actually, you have an appreciation of it, and people can have a dialogue. And even though this is sort of it's a fandom at the end of the day, but the important thing is actually that if we can do things to make it better for the next generation going forward. That is our responsibility and our to do, is to make sure actually that we are trying to do our best to do better for the next generation. Awesome.
So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If they won't tell it, we will.
If this the land of the free, it was a freedom then, when they annexed Hawaii and called it Cedar Lands, without any type of payment and no signing off. Called themselves a republic in 1894. 1.2 million acres overtaken from the native Hawaiians. When they resisted, the West retaliated in violence and erasure. The Hawaiian language is banned as part of colonialism's plan to expand, yeah.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe as a part of their ongoing war with Asia. Used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. No regard for all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. We will.
So if you put Hawaii into perspective, well, Black and Asian history is interconnected. Considering the fight with the Pacific, then of course, versus Asia, they was treated as a middleman for war, but didn't let the Western colorism run its course, cause dark skin was a sign of dignity to core. The land was taken in the name of capitalism, when prior to it was an actual kingdom, clapped back at the system.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe as a part of their ongoing war with Asia. Used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. No regard for all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. We will.